Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission is simple. We take stacks of global reports, could be conflict updates, could be quiet investigations, and we pull out the critical insights for you. Basically, we connect the dots so you don't have to spend hours doing it. Today, we're really digging into something beyond just the front lines. We're looking at, well, strategic depth and this idea of sustained readiness. We've got two quite distinct geopolitical stories from our sources. First, Ukraine's ongoing, pretty remarkable long-range strikes deep inside Russia. And second, this meticulous investigation using visual evidence. It reveals a massive, quiet, but really rapid U.S. military mobilization down in the Caribbean.
Yeah, and what's striking, across all this material is just the sheer pace. How fast things are moving. These two situations, they're thousands of miles apart, obviously, but they both show how nations project power today, either offensively, like disrupting an enemy's economy 600 kilometers away, or maybe more preventatively, reactivating old Cold War bases, getting set up for a sustained presence. It's all about being ready.
And we promise a couple of real aha moments for you today. One is about the maybe surprising strategic weight of two specific cities, Saratov and Pokrovsk, and the other is just, well, the sheer scale of that Caribbean buildup. When you see the assets involved, you realize, okay, this isn't just routine. All right, let's unpack this. Starting with the strategic depth in the Ukraine conflict. We're focusing first on those long-range strikes. That's become a key Ukrainian tactic, hasn't it? Disrupting things far behind the lines. Our sources are reporting the third attack this autumn on the Saratov oil refinery. And Saratov, this isn't close to the fighting, right?
No, not at all. It's deep, about 600 kilometers inside Russia, way east of the main front. And Saratov itself, it's a major industrial city on the Volga. But that refinery, it's a really big deal economically. It churns out over 20 different petroleum products, like specialized gasoline, diesel, bitumen for roads, stuff needed for the military, too. Just last year, 2023, that one plant processed something like 4.8 million tons of crude oil.
4.8 million tons. Just to put that in perspective, how many other refineries of that size are, realistically within drone range for Ukraine? Does hitting Saratov have an outsized impact?
Oh, absolutely. It definitely amplifies the disruption. It sends a message, right?
Yeah.
That pretty much no industrial site is truly safe. And the details from the attack are interesting, too. Reports say the strike hit the main refining units, the AVT-6 area, the atmospheric vacuum distillation unit, caused a big fire. And this was despite the facility supposedly being covered with protective netting, the kind meant to throw off drone guidance.
Right. And the Russian MOD, they confirmed intercepting a whole lot of drones that night, 64 overall, they said, and 29 just over the Saratov region. But despite those interception claims, we saw photos, videos circulating online, seemed to show the facility definitely getting hit.
Exactly. It highlights the huge challenge Russia faces defending its vast industrial areas deep inside the country. It's just too big an area to cover completely. And you can see the economic fallout. The strategy seems to be, working. Reuters data, cited in the reports, showed Russian petroleum product exports dropped, get this, 17.1% in September compared to August, down to about 7.6 million tons. That's a steep drop. And it points directly to the disruption from these drone attacks. It's like attrition warfare, but with precision strikes far away.
And it wasn't just production being hit, right? The sources also mentioned strikes on logistics closer to the occupied zones.
That's right. Ukrainian forces also hit logistics facilities in occupied Luhansk, a supply depot in Roskis, and what looked like a mobile fuel and lubricant depot near Donetsk.
So hitting the source, like Saratov, and also hitting the distribution points near the front.
Precisely. It creates a kind of pincer movement on the Russian supply chain. Deny the resources at the source, disrupt the delivery near the front. It's quite effective.
Okay, let's shift from the air and deep strikes to the ground war. Specifically, the really intense fighting around Pokrovsk. Moscow's updates claim their forces are destroying encircled Ukrainian formations, mentioned fighting near the train station in the industrial zone, and said their troops had entered and dug in the Brigorn neighborhood.
Yeah, and Pokrovsk. We really need to focus on why it matters so much. Military analysts are calling it an absolutely strategic point in Donetsk. Why? Because it's basically the gateway to the rest of the Ukrainian-controlled part of the region. It's a critical road and rail hub.
Gateway. So if Russia takes Pokrovsk.
If they control Pokrovsk, they secure a major railway line. That opens up a much easier path for them to move troops, supplies, heavy gear deeper into Donetsk. Any Russian advance there puts serious pressure on Ukrainian supply lines further west. It's really critical ground.
And alongside this ground push, Russia also confirmed broader air attacks overnight.
Yes, hitting a Ukrainian military airfield, some equipment repair bases, defense industry sites, and even supporting gas infrastructure. So you see both sides really prioritizing hitting the other's ability to actually sustain the fight, the logistics and production side of things.
Okay, so we've seen how operational readiness, Ukraine's ability to strike deep, is disrupting Russia's war economy. Now, let's pivot. Different part of the world, the Caribbean, but we're sticking with that exact same theme. Massive, sustained operational readiness. This time, the U.S. buildup.
It's a good transition because it really is about preparedness. What Ukraine demonstrated, hitting Saratov, that ability to reach out and touch key assets far away, that's kind of the flip side of what the U.S. seems to be doing in the Caribbean, building up the potential for sustained operations.
And this investigation we're looking at, it reveals something quite startling. A huge, largely quiet U.S. military preparation, and the signs point towards potential operations near Venezuela.
And the scale here is, well, it's historically significant. The sources emphasize this is the largest buildup of non-humanitarian U.S. military forces in that specific region since 1994. That was when they sent 2 aircraft carriers and over 20,000 troops for the Haiti intervention. So we're talking about a major, major deployment being put together, and pretty quickly, too.
Hold on, I just need to jump in here. Because this list of assets, you mentioned 13 warships, the Gerald R. Ford carrier, specialized spy planes. I mean, that sounds less like a routine patrol and more like prepping for something big, complex, and potentially long-term. How do the sources frame this scale compared to just normal activity?
They frame it as a clear shift towards what they call high-flow operational readiness. And maybe the most telling piece of evidence isn't just the ships, it's the infrastructure work. That wasn't needed for just, routine patrols. Take Roosevelt Roads in Puerto Rico. Huge Cold War naval base, right? The Navy shut it down back in 2004. But now, the investigation shows, with satellite imagery, teams actively cleaning and repaving old taxiways leading to the main runway.
Repaving massive Cold War taxiways. That's a huge job.
And expensive.
Exactly. That level of effort seems, well, it seems disproportionate if the only goal is, say, drug interdiction patrols, which is the official line. It suggests preparing for much heavier, sustained air traffic.
So basically reactivating a major strategic hub that's been dormant for 2 decades.
That's what it looks like. And it's not just Roosevelt Roads. Rafael Hernandez Airport, also in Puerto Rico, and strategically, it's only about 800 kilometers from Venezuela. Satellite images from late October showed 20 new large tents set up there. And crucially, the U.S. military moved in specialized communications gear and, get this, a mobile air traffic control tower. An ATC tower.
A mobile ATC tower. What's the significance of bringing one of those in? Why not just use the airport's existing tower? Well, mobile ATC towers are a key indicator. They're typically deployed in war zones or major military staging areas. Why? To handle a very high volume of military air traffic jets, huge cargo planes like C-17s, helicopters far more than a typical civilian airport tower is set up for. It points directly towards preparing for sustained, high-tempo air operations.
Wow, okay. And they're not just setting up for planes to land and take off, they're building for the long haul, too. There was something about ammunition storage.
Yes. Construction was observed for a new facility specifically designed for ammunition storage, right there at Rafael Hernandez Airport. And as one analyst quoted in the sources put it, this is very important, they could be used in the short term for an operation against Venezuela. It's about having everything ready right there. And even further south, on St. Croix in the U.S. Virgin Islands, similar work was spotted at the airport there. Henry E. Rolson, modifications to allow more military aircraft to park and refuel.
So they're creating this sort of multi-island logistical chain, fully equipped, ready to support a large force.
That's exactly what it looks like. A network capable of supporting a significant, sustained military presence.
Okay, let's list some of the actual hardware being moved in, because the list is, well, it's impressive. Since August, sources track at least 13 warships, 5 support ships, and a nuclear-powered submarine. And that includes the aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford, the world's largest carrier, right? Comes with around 10,000 personnel, dozens of aircraft.
Yeah.
And it was inbound from the Adriatic.
Yeah, a massive centerpiece. But beyond the carrier, you see these specialized vessels that hint at maybe more specific or covert capabilities, like the In-the-Ocean Trader. It looks like a commercial ship, but it's widely believed to be linked to U.S. Special Forces. It's equipped for things like reconnaissance, operating helicopters, landing troops discreetly. Then you have 3 guided missile destroyers, a hospital ship which suggests planning for potential casualties or humanitarian aspects, a large tanker for refueling at sea, and even a submarine navigation test ship.
A sub-navigation test ship. What does that imply?
It's specialized in mapping and testing underwater navigation routes in new or complex waters. Deploying that suggests detailed preparation of the undersea environment, maybe for submarine operations.
And the air power component seems equally comprehensive, not just the planes on the forward, but also land-based assets.
Right. 10 F-35 fighters were sent, plus various spy planes. And very pointedly, perhaps, the U.S. Air Force flew supersonic B-1 Lancer bombers on missions off the coast of Venezuela towards the end of October. That's a clear signal.
Bombers flying nearby.
Yep.
Okay. But you also mentioned intelligence gathering. Maybe that's the key to understanding the timing or intent here.
Quite possibly. Because the intel effort seems massive. We saw tracking data for dozens of C-17 cargo flights, likely bringing in weapons, drones, support gear. But the surveillance flights. Just in October, at least a dozen P-8 Poseidon flights over the Caribbean. These are advanced maritime patrol and anti-submarine jets based on the 737. Flying that many P-8s suggests an enormous effort to build a detailed, real-time intelligence picture of everything happening in the region above and below the water.
So you have this huge buildup of hardware, infrastructure being reactivated, intense intelligence gathering. What's the official reason given for all this?
Officially, the White House has linked it to promises about confronting drug cartels and stopping, quote, narco-terrorism.
Ah, narco-terrorism. That specific term came up in the analysis, didn't it, as being potentially significant?
Very significant. And this is where expert analysis from places like CSIS comes in. They suggest the purpose is likely multi-layered. One analyst suggested it's partly psychological warfare, designed to really scare the Maduro regime and the generals around it in hopes that it creates cracks, deterrence through massive visible force.
But that term narco-terrorism, the sources flagged it as more than just descriptive language.
Exactly. And we need to be really clear about this, just reporting what the sources say. The concern highlighted is that officially applying the label narco-terrorism to a nation, or elements within it, could be seen internationally as creating a kind of legal justification, almost like a casus belli or a password, as one source put it. A justification that might allow for military pressure or intervention against a sovereign nation, potentially bypassing standard diplomatic channels or sanctions regimes. It shifts the legal and political ground considerably.
So the combination of that specific language being used, plus the visible, large-scale physical readiness, the ships, the planes, the reactivated bases like Roosevelt Roads, it creates a very potent strategic situation.
It really does. It's a powerful combination of signaling and actual capability, all assembled relatively quickly and quietly.
Okay. We've covered a huge amount today, really spanning the globe from the Donbass war zone to the Caribbean Sea. The core takeaways seem pretty clear, though. First, Ukraine demonstrating a potent ability to reach deep and hit strategic industrial targets hundreds of kilometers away, fundamentally impacting the war's economic dimension. And second, simultaneously, seeing the U.S. showcase this rapid, focused, and very large-scale readiness by bringing old, dormant infrastructure back online near Venezuela, clearly setting the stage for potential sustained operations.
Yeah, it's all about that comprehensive readiness, isn't it? Not just about the immediate fight, but the ability to rapidly prepare for future contingencies. The speed with which that old infrastructure like Roosevelt Roads was surveyed, worked on, and seemingly integrated with modern tech like mobile ATC towers, it's quite staggering. It shows how fast the environment can shift from what looks like peacetime to a serious operational footing.
And that leaves us with a final thought, really a question for you, the listener, to mull over. We heard about the massive intelligence gathering effort, those dozens of PA flights just in 1 month. When you build such a detailed intelligence picture that quickly, and you simultaneously put all the logistical pieces and military hardware in place, how does that potent combination, highly defined intelligence plus immediately available assets, influence the timing and the actual nature of future military options? Will it be used primarily as a deterrent, a very loud signal? Or does it make active intervention more likely or perhaps faster if a decision is made?
That link between intel, readiness, and decision-making speed, that really defines the power and perhaps the risk inherent in this kind of sustained readiness posture we're seeing play out. It's something worth watching very closely.